It is Saturday, the weekend of Memorial Day, and I'm spending this gorgeous day in Delaware out in my workshop working on a project for my blog, reinventeddelaware.com. That's why you see this camera. I wasn't going to video it, and I thought, you know what? I think my YouTube friends would enjoy this project, so I am going to take you along. This is going to be kind of a rough video, so just be patient with me. Let me show you what I'm making. So this milk can was given to us ages ago, and honestly, I've just never done anything with it. I'm going to turn it into a little side table for our back patio. It's going to be super cute. Well, you'll see what I'm going to do. But anyway, I've already washed it and I've sanded down most of the rust with a wire brush and some really rough sandpaper. Then I washed it really clean with TSP cleaner. I'm letting it dry in the sun while I get the next step of this process done. The base of this milk can is going to rust if I'm not careful, because this little table is going to be outside on our back patio, and it's going to get the elements, and I don't want it to rust. The bottom of it is pretty rusted. The plan is to take some boards. I have some composite boards. I'll show you that here in a second. And I'm going to make a new base for this, wide enough that I can attach it through these already existing holes right here, and some strapping that I will form in the shape of brackets like this. So the brackets will be kind of like that, and then the board that I'm going to cut the base will be it'll be attached to there. It's all going to get painted out, so that's fine. So maybe you're wondering, why don't I just use this kind of a bracket? Store-bought holes are already there. The reason I'm not is because when it's sitting level, let me show you here. So pretend that's the board that I'm going to cut the base. This is just cardboard for now, but you can see that when it's sitting level, it doesn't line up. The holes that are in the bracket do not line up with that hole right there. See that? And I don't want to go through the hassle of trying to drill new holes. So what I've done in the past is I've taken this stuff. I don't know what it's called. I'm going to try to figure out the name of it, and I'll try to say the words, to put the text here on the video of what this is called. But I've used this before. It's this real heavy duty strapping of some sort, lots of holes in it, and it's bendable if you have pliers and some vice grips. So I'll show you how I make that, but I'm going to make basically a piece like this. I'm going to attach it with some screws and bolts. Where'd that bolt go? Anyway, where'd that bolt go? Oh no, I lost a bolt already. I bought this package of bolts. You can see it has the screws that fit and the bolts inside. So I'll be able to get all that attached. In the meantime, I guess I better go find that bolt. I don't want to lose it. This might seem kind of random, but we have some of these composite boards out. It was left over from a project. The fella gave us several of these boards, and I'm just trying to use them up. In fact, I have another project that I used these boards in, and I will link that blog post down below. You're going to love it. Anyway, I'm getting off track. For now, the base of my milk can, so the base of it from there to there, measures 13 inches. I want my base to be bigger, at least by an inch all the way around. So I want about a 16-inch square or so. What I'm going to do is measure the width of the board that I have, this measurement here. Then I want to cut the length so that I can, when I cut it, I'll have a full width circle. So let's just see what this board measures. And listen, I'm filming this by my hand, and I told you it was kind of unofficial. Anyway, this board measures 7.5 inches. That means if I double the width of that, I'm going to have 15 inches if I have two of these boards side by side. Imagine that, okay? Because I'm going to join them together. I'll show you all that. So I need to cut these boards at 15.5 inches this way, so that when I join them together and then cut a big circle, I'll have a 15-inch circle, which will give me plenty of extra on either side of the milk can base that I'm trying to make. I think this is going to make sense as you watch, so just go ahead and watch. Before I go ahead and cut this board, I'll show you the measurements here in a minute. But before I cut it, I thought you might be interested in what bloggers do to get images so that you can find them on Google when you have a question about how to turn a milk can into a side table. Like if you ever search that, hopefully my blog post is going to show up. And I just thought I'd give you a little behind the scenes of what it takes to get the images that you are going to see in that blog post. So I'm out here in my workshop. You can see that. I've got my chop saw stand open. By the way, this folds down and I fold it up when I use it. So here's my chop saw. I've got the board that I'm going to use. I've got my chop saw all ready to go, and yup, there's my camera. Oh, golly. Isn't that the craziest? I literally have it angled so that when I go ahead and make that cut, I can get a photo of it and be able to show the story in my blog post. Now I'm going to link that blog post down below, and I want you to be sure to go and check that blog post out so that you can see all the images that I'm getting. So I just thought of this. Maybe you didn't know, but when I photograph for my blog, I use my big girl camera. That's a DSLR camera. And I even have an ebook to show you and teach you how to use a DSLR camera. It's specific for bloggers, but anybody that wants to learn how, there goes my dog. Anybody that wants to learn how to use a DSLR can use it. I'll link that ebook down below in the description. It's cheap. I think I have it at like $9.97. It's super cheap. Anyway, you might be a blogger that teaches tutorials. And if you are, you need to have really nice images, and I can teach you how to get those images really nice with a DSLR camera. And if you're just interested in learning how to use a big girl camera, this book is for you. I'll link it below. In the meantime, I gotta get the dog. All right, back to the project. So the board is all measured to the 15 inches. That's my little line. I'm going to get that. It doesn't look like it on the camera, but I'm gonna have that line measured up with the blade, and I'll test it. So one thing I wanted to say, I'm really careful with my chop saw, and I just wanted to point out, they always have these things here that you can tighten your board. Now I'm doing this one-handed, so I'm not actually gonna film myself cutting it because I don't have a tripod for my phone camera right now. Anyway, this thing tightens down and it will hold this board nice and steady. I'm going to be wearing safety goggles. I'm gonna take all the precautions and make sure that when I make this cut that everybody's safe. Anyway, I'm going to cut 2 of these boards and then we're going to attach them. Just did the first cut, and let me point another thing out about a miter saw. My miter saw is not a compound miter saw. All it does is go up and down this way. It does not slide in and out like this, and a compound miter saw will. So you can stretch it out for wider board lengths than what I have. Like this is great for like a 2x4, but this board is about 7 inches, 7.5 inches wide, so it won't stretch. So what I do is I make the first cut, and then the little bit here that it won't get, I'll unscrew that, and then I'll flip this board over and I'll do the other side. I'm not worried about it being precise because after I get my 2 sections connected, they're going to form a circle. So it's okay if it's not perfect. You know, we like to use what we have on hand around here. If I can avoid running to the store and buying more stuff, I will. So I went through my little hardware bin and I found these 2 pieces. I don't know what they were used for. I don't know why I have them, but I do. I'm going to use them as mending brackets. In other words, I'm going to join these 2 boards here in the middle with these. I'm gonna clamp here. I'll show you that when I get it all set up. I'll show you. I'm gonna clamp them together to hold this joint here nice and tight. I will probably glue them with E6000. I won't use wood glue because this is a PVC composite board. I don't know if wood glue would work on that. Anyway, I'll use a glue on this end, then I'll clamp them, and I will use these short screws, and these will be my mending brackets. It has this hump here, so I do have to pay attention. See how that goes up a little bit? I do have to pay attention to that because on the underside of my milk can, you can see here, let me lay this down, hang on. So on the underside of the milk can, I need to pay attention because this like bumps out here, and then there's an indentation here. So if I keep these mending brackets in the center, then the bump on this it won't hinder. Like if it's here, this is gonna stick out, it would be in the way. But because I'm gonna have it in the center, it won't be in the way. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these glued, clamped, and then I'm going to start adding the screws to that, and I'll show you when I get to that point. I just got my circle marked, and you can see over here on the left side, I had quite a bit of mistake happening. Find the center both ways and then put the screw in there, tie a string to it, and then tie a writing utensil and make yourself a circle. Bad thing is my string was stretchy, so there's that. I don't know why it was stretchy, it was scrap. Anyway, I got my circle made, and I'm going to use my jigsaw and go around and cut the whole thing. Here's my favorite tool in the workshop, other than my drill. I love this drill. It's not super heavy, so that's good for me because I have arthritic hands. Anyway, it's this part here on the drill. This is a whole attachment right here from the drill bit all the way down. It goes in right here, and You know how that is. I'll try to take it apart and show you. But before I do, I want to show you what this does. So let's move this over here. So this part is the drill bit. Okay, it's kind of a standard size I use a lot. And then on it is, see this edge right here? That's a countersink, so that if I need to countersink the head of a screw so that I want it to sit below the surface, that's what this part does here. So that's amazing. But the other amazing thing is this. Now I have the drill bit to put those screws in. Isn't that amazing? This is really the most useful tool, is this thing right here. See, it's got two ends, goes in there, snap it on, boom. Now it's time to put the screws in. You just turn it around, and I'm doing this one-handed, guys. I'm holding the camera. And there you go. Here's a closer look at this tool. I just took it out. So this is the part, this part here is the part that goes into the drill, and you know, you tighten this down. I know that there are words for all the parts of a drill. I don't know those parts. I don't need to. I just know that I tighten this down when I put a new bit in here. In this case, it's this end here. And then I took it apart because you can see this is the other part of it that snaps in and out. So on one side, it's a drill bit with that countersink, and the other side, it is the screw bit to put that screw in. It quickly changes in and out just with this snap, this little thing here. That's the thing that you can just take it out, flip it around, put it in, snap it in, flip it around again when you need to, snap it in. It's super easy. Now, yeah, I could have two drills at $100 a pop. I don't want to have two drills. I don't want to have two drills to keep track of the batteries and all that stuff. For me, and about $10 or $15 this tool is, that's the option for me. So I'm going to link this down below. I think that you need this in your tool, in your toolkit, in your workshop, wherever you're working. This is a really handy tool to have for your drill. I'll link my drill down there as well. So check in the description, and I'll have this contraption. I think it's called a flip drive. Anyway, if you know the name of it, go ahead and let me know. In the meantime, I will search the name of it and I will link it below. Let's chat about safety for just a minute. You know, I don't take using tools like a chop saw lightly or a jigsaw lightly. So on the jigsaw, oh golly, that's not a jigsaw, that's a chop saw. On the chop saw, the blade is going to come down here, and I make sure where I know exactly where that cord is. It goes way behind and on to the right, so I don't have any worry about that. I already told you about this thing here that holds the piece of wood down nice and safe. I have my safety goggles on right now. In fact, let's show you. They're pink so that my husband does not take them. Hint, hint, because I've had safety glasses here. They disappear, so I thought, well, get pink ones. Maybe they are less likely to disappear. I'll link them down below if you need them. In the meantime, let's keep talking about safety and the chop saw and the jigsaw. Okay, so back on that. So I'm right-handed, which works out perfectly for me for this here. So this has this safety shield on it right here. I'm not pressing any buttons to make it come on, but you can see what happens with that safety shield. As it comes down, it exposes the blade. As it goes back up, that safety shield keeps that blade nice and safe. Another safety, like you see me lifting this or pushing this down, the only way to make this saw run is to push this button and this trigger at the same time. So I'm not going to show you here because that would be unsafe for me to hold a camera and try to show you that. So I'm not going to show you that right now, but just know that I'm being super safe. Let me give you some safety tips about the jigsaw. Before we move on to the jigsaw, here is my workbench. It's a nice small workbench. My husband and I put casters on the bottom, so this thing moves around anywhere I need it. I can take it outside to my driveway, which is wonderful for sanding. I can take it out there, then all the mess goes out there. I can keep it in here and use it for the work that I'm doing now. So this is really a great small-sized workbench. I'm going to link it because if you're interested in having a little garage workshop, this is a great workbench to have. Put it on casters, tuck it away when you're done, and boom, you have a little area to store your tools, and Anyway, it's really nice. So let's talk about this jigsaw. My jigsaw is pretty old. I think my husband got a new one and he gave me this one. So I was thankful because I don't use this tool a lot, but it's kind of nice to have one when I need it. I will link one that's down below. Mine is a little on the heavy side. I'll try to find one that's not quite as heavy. Let's see what I can do about that. But it is a power one. It's not a battery one. I don't know, for something like a jigsaw or a chop saw, I just think you need real power, not battery power. Maybe I'm biased. Let me know down below if you have a brand that you know of that really holds the power well in something like a jigsaw. Anyway, you see where I have this plugged in. It runs over to the wall on a long extension cord. And since I'm right-handed, I don't want this cord on this side when I'm cutting. So I will be moving my workbench well away. Let's see if I can get over there. There we go. So that the cord is going to be, let's get that even farther away. I don't like that because look what's gonna happen. When I'm cutting here, well, I just wanna be sure. So when I'm holding this up, I wanna make sure there's no chance of that cord getting in the way of that blade when I go to start cutting. So the cord comes out of the back. I think I'm gonna be okay here. And what I will do is I will position my body so that my body also holds that cord out of the way. So you saw what I meant about putting that cord behind my body, so I knew exactly where it was. Got my hands out of the way completely. So look at this. What in the world? Is he enjoying his life or what? Hey, bark, bark. Hey, bark, bark. He loves this cool cement. Here's another thing I want to point out about that chop saw and my really nice workbench. I don't want to, not a chop saw, golly guys, that is a jigsaw. Anyway, I don't want to chop up my really nice workbench with the blade of that jigsaw. So when I clamped it, I made sure that my circle cut, my measurement for the cut is way beyond the actual surface of the workbench. Then what I'll do is I'll get to a certain point. I'll probably get to about over in here, move the clamps, move the board, turn it around, and then just keep going. So I just learned a crazy thing. When you are cutting composite board, it melts. Like literally, the heat from that blade going up and down melts the material, and this is what you get left with. Now I can't do it one-handed, but you just scrape it off. I mean, the stuff just comes right off. It's no big deal. The next step is to sand it. It's not perfectly cut. You can see that. I'm okay with that. I'm gonna go ahead and sand it and then attach it to the milk can. Okay, so if you don't have some composite PVC boards just laying around like we did, you could also go to your local hardware home improvement store, you know, the big box stores. They sell these things. They're called a round. It's a wooden round cutout. Just make sure that you find one that is the right size for the base of your milk can. That's going to be in that 13 to 15 inch size, more than likely, if you come across one of these antique milk stands that you want to turn into a little table like I am doing. The reason that I wanted to use that PVC board, the composite board, mostly because we had it on hand, so there's that. But also because this is going to be outside and I don't want that wood to deteriorate over time. So bear that in mind if you decide to get wood for your project. You could put this little table on legs or casters, which would elevate it off of the floor surface. So mine is going to be out on our back patio. I'll show you when I get the whole thing done, but it would sit in water if I wasn't careful because, well, when it rains, it would collect underneath of the base of this and it would soak up water. So the PVC board for me is going to work perfect. So just bear that in mind when you make your milk can table, if you make one. I couldn't cut that piece of strapping that I told you. So I walked over to my husband's workshop. By the way, he's going to be getting a new workshop. If I think about it, I will try to share that. He's going to show me how to do it. I only need 4 pieces of it. So he's going to show me how to do it and I'll let you see. Cut 4 straps to kind of space around the base of this evenly, and this is kind of what it looks like. There's the strap that we cut. My husband cut the first one. I went back and cut 3 more. So I'll show you a close-up of this here in just a second, and then you can see on the inside what's going on here inside that rim. Basically, I got this package of machine screws. They come with bolts to fit the screw, and honestly it's just easier to buy a package like this with the parts rather than trying to match these up at the store. That's a pain. So I have the bolts is on the inside, and then on the outside I have the strap, a screw, and a washer. Now I had to buy those washers. I have them on hand, but they were separate. They were not included in this package. So I took the washer, the screw, I ran it through the strap, and then on the inside I put a bolt, and that's what we have. So this is it on the outside. You can see the washer and the screw, and then it runs to the inside, and you can see that bolt, and I just tightened it down. Now I'm going to bend these so that they are flat with the surface, and then here are the holes that I will use to attach to that base that we just made. And this is how I am bending the piece of strapping. I'm using my vice grip. This is a needle nose vice grip. I will link the one that I use. And then I'm taking my needle nose pliers and I'm holding it against the can. Then I'm going to grab hold of that vice grip, and I can bend this just where I want it to be. I applied a spray clear coat for added protection, and then I applied 2 layers of Dixie Belle's Boss. That will cover all the old color so that it won't bleed through on the light color of paint that I'm going to use on this milk can. By the way, I'm using the color Fluff, and I applied 2 coats. I love the texture that it creates when painting over old paint. Look at that. Look at that finish. Isn't that pretty? Let's dress this milk can up just a little bit. I had a transfer on hand, and I thought that the colors of this transfer would be so pretty. That's a magnolia bloom. They're easy to apply. I'll link another video that I go into more detail about how to apply a transfer. I don't like this hard edge that the transfer has, and I want to blend it a little bit, and I tested it right here. You can see I just kind of tested it, and I used a Surf Prep Fine sanding pad. These are flexible sanding pads. I love these. And I'm just going to go around the edge like that, and it just feathers it out a little bit. So I softened the edge a little bit with that sanding pad, and now I'm going to take the same paint that I painted the milk can, and I'm going to use a small brush. This is, oh, I just dipped it. Anyway, this is one of these really small artist brush you can pick up at hobby stores, and I'm going to get off most of the paint, and I'm just going to dab. That just kind of blends it in a little bit and softens that edge even more. That's exactly what I want. I want it to look like it's just worn off. I have decided to add a little bit of distressing to this because I like distressed pieces. So, plus this is an old piece and I think that it should look distressed. We already have the texture from the paint layers and I just kind of want to work with that. What I like to do is I take one of these knives. This is a flat edge knife. It's really short, only about 4 inches. It's easy to hold. It's not super sharp. I should probably sharpen it. Anyway, all I do is scrape off some of the paint. Now, if you decide to do this, you need to do this before the paint cures too long. I've just painted this within the few hours. I've been working on this today. So you need to think about that because once this paint is on, it is on. So it's dry to touch, but all I'm going to do is take my knife and just scrape off some of the paint. All right, so I've got the whole thing distressed, and now I've decided to distress the actual decal. I'm going to use the same Surf Prep sanding pad and just lightly go over some of the areas where I want it to look worn. I don't want this to look like a brand new piece of art. I want it to look worn. This milk can is going to be a little side table outside our back patio, so I need to protect it really well. This is Dixie Belle's Gator Hide. It's rated for outside. I'm going to apply 2 coats, this brush, and let it sit overnight. I completely forgot to tell you that I already made over another milk can for our front porch. You can see it here. I'm going to link this video and I'll show you all about this adorable milk can table that we use on our front porch. My poor little dog, he's so stressed out. He is literally growling at birds that are flying in the air. And here's this milk can. Didn't it turn out so pretty? I'm really thrilled with this little milk can as a side table. This is a spot that I like to sit at in the evenings or sometimes in the mornings with a cup of coffee, and just having this a little spot to put my cup of coffee or a glass of ice water is just so nice and cozy. So I'm loving the distressing that I did on this decal. To me, this decal looks as though it has been there for years and years and that is just worn over time. I hope you enjoyed this video and this project. If you did, go ahead and give us a thumbs up and subscribe. We love to share projects like this and all sorts of other home decor and furniture makeovers. I'd love for you to join us. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.